Hello, say Charat. Your perfectionism is ruining your productivity. On one hand, doing your work with perfection is seen as a unique advantage, like a quality that indicates high standards of professional execution. All of us like to admire businessmen, artists, and athletes who are almost perfect in what they do. And proof of that is that the number of people that consider themselves perfectionists has increased. A study showed us that over the last 3 decades, the amount of academics that call themselves perfectionists has increased drastically. It seems like everyone is looking for perfection. But although perfectionism is perceived by many as a quality, wanting to do your work with perfection is actually a weakness. Perfectionism destroys your productivity. It makes you more stressed. And a lot of times it is just an excuse for not doing what needs to be done. This is a point of view that can seem harsh for you. So now let's see what affirmations these are based on. Perfectionism demands a lot of effort without bringing a proportional gain. People like Michelangelo, Steve Jobs, or Cristiano Ronaldo are known for their perfectionism in their work in different areas of expertise. And when we read stories about people like this, we are amazed by the quality of their results and we wish in some way to be a professional on the same level. And that is why a lot of people say proudly that they are perfectionists. This is an attempt of being different from the rest, to advertise the excellence of their work, to make the impression of being better than average. But when we leave the world of narratives and we move into the real world, we can see clearly that perfectionism is actually weakness, even when we're talking about big names. Yeah, for example, Michelangelo spent more than 5 years making one of his most praised sculptures, the Lamentation over the Dead Christ, and after all those years sculpting more than 2 meters of marble, he thought that the masterpiece wasn't perfect, and he got a sledgehammer and started to destroy the sculpture. Steve Jobs wasted time, money, and the patience of his employees just to paint the internal part of the next computers with black color. This helped to destroy the company's sales that he founded after leaving Apple. The product was very expensive, and in practice, no one was actually opening the computers to see what was the color inside. So these are just examples, so you can see how even the most praised perfectionists have many disadvantages with the craze of wanting to do everything perfectly. Although there are some benefits, the disadvantages of being a perfectionist almost always outweigh the advantages. Companies don't want to hire perfectionists because they are more stressed, anxious, and exhausted. Now, you can believe that being a perfectionist is a desired quality by many companies. But a meta-analysis has revised almost 100 scientific studies about perfectionism, and it showed the contrary. The data studied of more than 25,000 workers shows that the perfectionists did have some advantages. On the one hand, the perfectionist workers were the most motivated, engaged, and also they worked more hours per day. But on the other hand, the disadvantages outweigh the advantages by a lot. Perfectionist workers get way more stressed, anxious, and even depressed. Various of them were suffering from burnout syndrome, feeling physically and mentally exhausted in the search for perfection. The meta-analysis also showed that in practice, there is no significant performance gain by the perfectionist workers. That is, there is no direct correlation or relation between perfectionism and productivity gain. As a matter of fact, the perfectionists usually were inflexible. They had excessively high standards. They evaluate their own behavior too critically, and they have a mindset about everything or nothing about their own performance. All of this goes against what the companies value currently, which are flexibility, balance, experimentation, growth mindset. These are difficult qualities to find in perfectionists. And that is why, when companies put on the scale the advantages and disadvantages of perfectionism, they say it's not worth having a perfectionist team that is more motivated, engaged, that spends more time working, if that perfectionism is costing the physical and mental health of these people without any productivity gain. Perfectionism is, at the same time, an impossible search for excellence and an unnecessary attempt to escape failure. There is a study published in 2002 that showed that perfectionism divides itself into two: There are two types of perfectionism: the one that searches for excellence and the one that tries to run away from failure. These two types are useless and they destroy your productivity. The first type of perfectionist is the one that always looks for excellence. It's a common thing to believe that this search for excellence is a positive thing and it generates a high-quality job. But what reality shows is that this search is useless and counterproductive. While perfectionists can spend years thinking and planning, even trying to execute an ideal job, other practical people, they just deliver results. A product or service delivered in practice in real life, even with imperfections, is much better than a supposedly perfect product that is never finished or delivered. The second type of perfectionist is the one that tries to run away from failure. The fear of delivering something that isn't perfect, it paralyzes the second group of people. These perfectionists prefer not to deliver the product or service than to deliver something that may not work or might be considered a failure. Fear of failure, a lot of times, is also a form of procrastination. It's an excuse not to act. Those who consider themselves as perfectionists, and they never do what they're supposed to do, they justify themselves by saying that the ideal conditions are not present or the project is not good enough. This view of failure as something to be avoided, it should be overcome. Failure helps us to understand our mistakes, to improve our work, to do better next time. Success comes only to those who face it out, who go to the market, who show their real work, knowing that mistakes and successes will both happen. Abandon perfectionism to improve the quality of your work and become more productive. It can seem contradictory, but abandoning perfectionism can improve the quality of your work. If you consider yourself a perfectionist, do an experiment. Leave behind for a few weeks your search for perfection and also your fear of failure. During those weeks, focus on finishing projects, in delivering results, and spending more time acting than thinking about perfection. And for that, you can use Parkinson's law. You can define for yourself tighter deadlines than usual. You can use deadlines that don't allow you to deliver a perfect project. Parkinson's law says that our work expands in a way that fills all the available time to do it. If you have a project with a deadline of 1 month, then you're going to use the whole 30 days to work on that project. But if you only had 1 week, you would give all your efforts to complete that project in 7 days. Besides focusing on delivering results, even if imperfect, you can also let go of inflexible and excessively high standards about you. You can lower expectations. You can take advantage of the experiment and do activities that help you to reduce stress, anxiety, and physical and mental exhaustion. And after a few weeks experimenting, you can reevaluate how your deliveries were and how you feel physically and emotionally. You can see if your work got better, if your relationship with the team evolved, and if you feel better with yourself. And it is very likely that by abandoning perfectionism, you will come to the conclusion, which is already well known, that something actually performed, something done, is better than something perfect that only lives in the world of ideas. Perfectionism is still seen by many as a quality to be achieved, but in practice, it shows that the search for perfection doesn't bring productivity gains and it generates stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. Besides that, there is no correlation between perfectionism and performance at work. Therefore, if you want to be more productive, you have to abandon your search for perfection and the fear of failure. Instead of using perfectionism like some kind of an excuse to not get into action, you have to stop delaying. You have to start delivering results even if they are imperfect. And by the way, if you need to have more help on how to stop delaying, I invite you now to take a look at this special lesson from the course Productivity Ninja about procrastination. And you can watch that class right now by going to arata.se/delay.